Chapter 170, Beginning. We got Django hypnotizing. I guess, what's his name? Hypnotizing the friendship out of the equation and everyone crying in the background. So sad. So I keep getting confused about her name, but this is Miss All Sunday. I was referring to her as Miss Merry Christmas and Miss All Sunday, depending on my mood, I guess. So we have Vivi, Miss All Sunday, and Pell. We're back to them. Pell and Miss All Sunday were about to fight, but they end up talking here a lot more. I don't see any signs of the rest of the army, so maybe I think Pell just came on his own. And here's why. Okay, so Miss All Sunday apparently is the one, and I don't remember, but is the one who killed Igaram. Or how could you do that to Igaram? Who they knew as Mr. 8, and they knew Vivi as Miss Wednesday. So this is a much more significant moment than I even realized, right? And it appears like she somehow just puts her arm right through Vivi or something. Pell is like, freaks out and thinks Vivi's dead probably. Turns out, no, Miss All Sunday has the power of the flower fruit, which gives her the power to make any part of her body blossom. She can make her limbs sprout anywhere, which is very creepy looking, if I do say so myself, and I do. So they fight. She basically wrecks Pell. I mean, it looks like she snaps his neck or something. It's actually kind of, it looks painful. It just looks like it had to hurt. Back in the cage, we got Luffy and Usopp trying to entertain themselves and not taking the situation as seriously as they could. Crocodile obviously doesn't put a great deal of stock in trust, except to use it to to his own purposes. Says it's the most overrated thing in the world. So Vivi gets brought to Crocodile. She attacks him. I mean, almost immediately. There's a brief moment, they talk for a second, but she flat out attacks him. And it almost looks like she decapitates him, but now his head really disappeared. He just turned into sand because he has the powers of the sand fruit. Basically Sandman. Which Usopp calls him, Sandman. So things are looking pretty dire. It's almost time for their plan to go into action. And that's the end of the chapter. Things are taking a different turn than I was imagining right off the bat. That's going to continue here with chapter 171. Koza, leader of the rebels. Back to Django for a second. They see Django, not just Django, pretty much everybody sees this lady naval officer, I guess. Yeah, love shock female officer. And, well, I guess that's going to end up changing something. We'll see. Back in Alabarna, capital of Arabasta, we find out the king has disappeared and the army's ready to go, but there's king is nowhere to be found. Can't find him. And then they get word of some of his possible whereabouts. Sort of, it's not really a flashback, but it's like a flash sideways with little flashbacks in it. We got Koza, who is also aware of whatever was going on and is riding somewhere very quickly. And as he does so, he thinks back to part of what got him where he is. Always being told to trust in the king, that it was going to rain. But because of that dance sand incident, they're dried up indefinitely, and things just keep escalating. We see a conversation between Koza and the king, where Koza, what he wants is some of the dance powder, to force some rain in onto their village, which the king won't allow because the king knows doing so is going to create more drought other places. So he's looking at the bigger picture. Koza's looking at the immediate, and they are not communicating or understanding each other. So that is really the birth of the true rebellion, almost, is Koza's resolve to come in forcefully, take the reign, or take the dance powder. So Koza, back to real moment, the present moment, is riding into Nanohana, where we see the king, apparently, saying this is his way of apologizing for taking the reign, which doesn't make a lot of sense because he's going to sacrifice Nanohana and get rid of it. I guess doing so, the idea is sort of, you do that, then you don't need the rain to fall here. You can let it fall somewhere else, I guess. I don't know. It's to burn the city to the ground. So something's obviously up, right? This is not what the king would be doing from what we've seen of him previously. And the kid, the Nanohana kid that approached Koza, approaches the king, and the king just decks him. We'll just say, obviously not the king, right? Obvious what this is if you've been paying attention. People are simple. Koza is a little bit simple-minded, unfortunately, and he's shocked, but he's not questioning the reality of what he's seeing at all. And one of the king's quote-unquote guards basically shoots Koza while they're yelling at each other. Then out of nowhere, a giant ship crashes into the harbor. So this is like chaos, basically. Seemingly off the ship comes, I think that's number 1, or Mr. 1. And I don't know her name, and I don't want to guess these names because I'm going to just get them wrong. This is where we see that the king was not the king, but was Mr. 2, the clone guy. This is all just part of Crocodile's plan to escalate things all the way over the top, which is certainly working. And that's the end of chapter 171. Very much a sidestep. We're into some kind of war at this point, basically, but it is not fully formed yet. Crocodile's plan becomes more and more apparent by the second. Chapter 172, Rebellion. Let's see. Well, it looks as though Django has joined the Marines, because he's dressed like one, and it says so on his hat. And the lady Marine's over here, and everyone's freaking out. And these people over here look familiar, I will say. So that's cool. Dance of the Peon Pals. There's the giant ship that crashed into the harbor. Yeah, more hijinks from the Baroque Works here. Now this kid who got hit by the quote-unquote king notices Mr. 2 sort of transform back into his normal self, literally saying, surprised, the king turned into a queen. That's funny. That king was a fake. And Mr. 1 here and his cohort noticed that. So they do something to him, and it doesn't look good. It looks like he's been killed, but no, he's barely alive. And he's trying to say that they've been tricked, that wasn't the king, but he can't quite get it out. Koza kind of comes to from his being knocked down or shot down. He's standing right over the kid. Did the kid die? It seems like the kid just dies right here, honestly. It would fit if he does here, because Koza is now resolved to bring the kingdom down as he sits over this kid who's not responding anymore. Tell him it's time for the final battle, but we don't have enough weapons. Well, guess what? That giant ship has a ton of weapons on it. Koza calls it divine providence. That's obviously just part of Crocodile's plan. The only thing left is for Mr. 4's team to kidnap the king, which sounds like it may have happened, since no one seems to know where he is. So Koza rallies up the rebel forces. They all have weapons now. And it's time for the King to pay for his crimes. They launch an all-out assault on Alabarna. So back in Alabarna, the king's advisors and people that are here are sure he'd never do such a thing, but they don't know where he is. So they basically just decide they're going to have to stand up against anything that comes at them. So now we definitely have a setup for exactly what Crocodile wants, which is a war between the rebels and the royal army, rebel forces and the royal army. And that's not good, because that's exactly what Vivi was trying to stop, right? And it almost seemed to happen that the king was going to go over to where Crocodile is and take it straight to him, but that has not happened, as it seemed like it was going to. Back in Crocodile's lair, he starts having his let's say Bond villain moment, where he starts explaining his master plan. It's everything that went into it, and admits his involvement, and he's got the rebels and the royals saying they're defending Arabasta by fighting each other, which is extremely manipulative and effective in this case. So Vivi is not happy, and she says she's going to stop it anyway. She'll get there somehow anyway, and Crocodile offers her a choice to either come with them, since he's going to her father anyway to ask him a question apparently, or she can go after this key that he drops down the trapdoor into the alligator aquarium. So she's going to have to choose what to do, and that's the end of chapter 172. I'm enjoying this arc quite a lot at this point. I'm not even sure anymore how many more chapters is in it, because I'm just enjoying going through it. So it's definitely my favorite so far, by far, actually. I like the rest of this, but I get why this is one of the main arcs people like, especially early on. It's good stuff. And the next 3 chapters of it will be here shortly. Like and subscribe, and see you there. Peace.